The two most popular platforms that are built with Flutter are Android and iOS. Now you can make your designs completely custom, but each of them have their own design language. So Material is the design language for Android. And if you remember, we wrap our application in a Material app. Now you can still customize your Flutter app as you wish, but when you wrap it in this Material app, you get some of the Material design patterns by default. So you can actually visit the website material.io and go through, for example, the components. So this component is a card, and you can have an elevated card, you can have a filled card, outline. They can give you specs and even some guidelines to follow in your applications. And all of these are followed whenever you are using the Material app. Now you can also do the same thing specifically designed for iOS. So iOS style is called Cupertino. You can actually go to the Apple design website, go to the guidelines, and see a very similar layout like we saw for Material. You can click into these and it shows you, for example, the chart's anatomy, some marks, axes, some best practices, what kind of colors, and whatever you need for your iOS style application. And so just like we have a Material app here, we can actually change this to a Cupertino app. In this case, now we need to import the Cupertino library because before we were using the Material. So we say that we actually have to reload the whole thing. You'll see we still have a bunch of issues. If we go back to the main document and actually remove this Material import, a lot of our widgets that we have don't actually work. That's because when you're using a Cupertino app, you actually need to update these to Cupertino specific widgets. So the scaffold needs to be a Cupertino page scaffold. And the page scaffold doesn't have an app bar, instead has a navigation bar. We change that to navigation bar. This turns into Cupertino navigation bar. And it doesn't have a title, instead it has a middle property. Now instead of body, we actually have a child widget here. And lastly, instead of just a theme, we have a Cupertino theme, which doesn't have a headline property, but it has a nav large title text style. So now if we save it and we run it, we need to reload it. There we go. This looks now more like an iOS application. We actually don't have a button to add anything. So let's add a text button up here. Let's add a Cupertino button at the top. The child will be a text that says, actually no, an icon. And this time it has to be a Cupertino icon, and we'll have it be an add icon. And update this to increment our counter whenever we press it. Okay, so there we go. Now this is styled in a Cupertino style. You can see it looks a little bit more iOS, and we can click the button. The button looks more iOS style, and we're able to increment our counter the same way we did before, just with a completely different design pattern. In order to see all the widgets, we'll add a link below, but there's a Cupertino iOS style widgets catalog here. You can see all the widgets that are supported by the Cupertino app. So that's Material and Cupertino design.